Hey, what's going on, everybody? Doing a second video in my cooking series. This is called Make Mine Meatloaf. Okay, this is my Mrs. Neridcane loves meatloaf, and because I cook so much and we do so much cooking at home, we wind up with a lot of extra stuff and ingredients in the fridge. So this meatloaf that I do is sort of like a clear out dish. Basically a meatloaf. So I got your ground beef. You're gonna need breadcrumb, an egg, one egg, and basically this meatloaf is different because I'll chop up the celery, carrots, basically anything that I can find in the fridge that's just like leftover little bits and pieces. These mushrooms I'm gonna chop up in it. This little bit of yellow pepper. Basically anything that will bring flavor into it will help it out, and plus it helps clean out our fridge. Our spices are up here. I'll lay that out here in a minute. I'll do an edit and I'll just lay out all the spices that go into it, and I'll do little vids as we build it. So this is going to be meatloaf with Brussels sprouts, and I'm doing a twice baked potato. So twice baked potato, you're going to need a baked potato. You're going to need a baked potato, and I'll show you this as well. How to scoop it out and what to do with the insides. So let's get started. I gotta chop this stuff, mix it in with there, and get the meat going, okay? So here we are, I've chopped some stuff. Got your ground beef, this is Kirkland's from Costco. This stuff is awesome. I found some tomatoes. There's garlic, celery, yellow pepper, mushrooms, and carrots. So this is gonna go in this. This is a really good meatloaf pan. I think we got this like 10 bucks at a Target. Here's a breadcrumb. Another thing I mix in is A1. I put maybe 2 tablespoons of A1. And here are the spices that are going to go into this in varying degrees. Oregano, onion powder, ground black pepper, paprika. This should be thyme, and a tiny bit of basil for sweetness. Okay, so I learned to cook from my dad. I didn't learn to cook in culinary school. I learned to cook from my dad. My dad learned to cook from his mother, my grandmother. And if there's one thing that the family knows about Grandma Flores and her cooking, she doesn't measure anything. So Dad doesn't really measure things, and I don't measure things, which has made me a very good cook on the fly, and I really understand spices and mixture and things like that. But in doing that and learning that way, I'm a horrible baker. Baking is a science. It's very precise. You need to be very precise. The way I cook, which really helped me in my career that I've retired from, as far as like Italian, I cook on the fly. I smell it, I taste it as it's coming, and I adjust it. That's how I cook. I don't measure a whole lot of things very often. I just understand. And I kind of recommend for you guys at home learning this is to learn it this way. That way you know what onion powder does in a recipe. You know what black pepper does. You know the potency of black pepper. You know what all of these things do, and you know the potency of them. So you know how to, you really won't need, once you learn the basic techniques and you learn what these things do, you really won't need recipes anymore. You'll just understand what the food is, what the technique is, and then you're going beyond needing recipes. So I'm going to mix all this together with the meat. Hey, here we are. We're going to do the meatloaf. Okay, so we're going to mix the meat, pepper, all the spices, A1, breadcrumb. I'm not going to use this garlic powder because there's actual garlic in this. And this is basically whatever I could clear out from the refrigerator. And we're going to put all this together into this bowl. I'm not going to give you a recipe on this. I want you guys to kind of experiment on how much pepper, how much paprika, how much onion powder, how much of this, how much of that. I want you guys to experiment with that. So it's one thing if you're just reading a menu, or not a menu, a recipe, but it's another thing if you actually understand how much this stuff carries, how much fresh garlic carries over powdered garlic or garlic salt or things like that. Okay, I want you guys to understand that. So all that plus the tomato paste is going to go in there. I'll show you once I get it all mixed with an egg, and it's all going to fit right back into here. And I'll show you how to prep that here in just a minute, okay? Neridcane Jr.'s home too, so he's going to be running around my feet while I get all this stuff ready. Baby boy, hi. Okay, here's the setup for the twice baked potatoes. These were baked earlier today, 400 degrees for about an hour or so. This is what they look like. You cut them in half, and then you kind of scoop them out, and you scoop the innards into there. So you're gonna mix this, chop up your chives, a little bit of milk, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and you can put butter in it, but since the wife and I are on the Whole30, we do the Whole30 diet. We did it for a month, and it was horrible. It was brutal. I run out of stuff to cook. You're so restricted, you run out of stuff to cook, and like the last week, I was absolutely miserable because I couldn't cook with things that I'm used to, and I had run out of recipes to cook, and I was just so frustrated and angry every time mealtime came around, like dinner. But the diet works. I lost like 15 pounds on the diet. So moving forward, we do Whole30 on the weekdays, and then we eat whatever we feel like on the weekends. So we use ghee instead of butter. And ghee, yes, has more calories, but it doesn't have the milk solids in it, so it's Whole30 approved. Basically, this, you're just doing a mashed potato. So you want to use the milk and the butter, the ghee or whatever, to get a mashed potato consistency. You don't want it too hard, you don't want it too thick, you don't want it soupy. That's what you're aiming for. And this, just like mashed potatoes, you can put anything you want in it. Bacon, blue cheese, cheddar, sour cream. There's a lot of things, since this is Monday and we can't use those things because of the way we eat here. I have to use, I'm going to get away with a little bit of milk, and I'm probably going to put some blue cheese in there or on there because it's just like, I can do whatever I want. I'm not under any, it's not a law, it's just a guideline. So that's how you set that up. I'm going to mix this all up and I'll show you what they look like when they're completed, okay? So there we go. We mixed it all up. We put it back into the meatloaf pan, mixed it up in here, got it all out. I had a little bit left. I've kind of left that so I can make a burger for myself tomorrow. But yeah, we're going to cover this with tin foil, cook it at about 400 for 40 minutes, and then take the foil off, bump the heat up to 425, and then cook it for another 15 to 25 minutes. I would say closer to 25. So that's how you're going to do your meatloaf. Comes out with a lot of flavor. There's a little bit, probably about 2 tablespoons of A1 in it. That's just something I like to do. You can use Worcestershire, or you can just not use any of that. So that's what we got. I'm going to work on, I think I've got everything else done. I got to do the Brussels sprouts next. Neridcane Jr. is doing a chef's table kitchen dinner here. Hi. Yeah, he's speechless. He's got dragon fruit, which I got dragon fruit from the DeKalb Farmers Market yesterday. It's hard to get good ripe dragon fruit, but I got it. This sucker cost me about $5 though. Oh my god! But it's probably the best dragon fruit I've had in a long time. But I digress. Yeah, I'm almost done. So I'm gonna knock out these Brussels sprouts, and then I'm gonna show you what everything's gonna look like together. Okay? Okay, so I'm finishing up. I'm doing the Brussels sprouts. I'm gonna do them in this big cast iron pan. This is ghee that I've kind of smeared around. Now what's going to happen, what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to put a little more ghee in here. And when you cut these, if your knife skills aren't that great, you want to cut these in half like this. And then sort of cut as much of this stem as you can. Because you don't want that. It doesn't have any, doesn't taste very good. And it's hard. It's really hard to cook this while cooking this. If you cook it all the way through to where this end is properly cooked, this end will be just like dry, burnt mush. It just won't be very good. So you want to kind of like either cut it here at an angle, or cut like a wedge, just cutting that part out. So here's the trick. You're gonna put it in here with some ghee or butter. I'm gonna put it in the oven covered with tin foil. After a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, I'm gonna pull it out, and this ghee will have liquefied, and I'm gonna kind of like stir it around and kick it around to make sure everything gets covered with the ghee and it cooks properly, it doesn't burn, and then just hit it, basically just gonna hit it with salt and pepper, and it'll be good. So meatloaf, once again, I'm gonna recap. Meatloaf goes in for 40 minutes at 400. Once the 40 minutes is over, you take the top of the meatloaf off. I'll usually spread a little bit of ketchup on top to get that nice caramelized ketchup, a little burn on the ketchup. And then 15 to 25 more minutes, usually closer to 20 to 25. At the same time, once that's been in for about 10-15 minutes, these are going to take 40 minutes covered. They'll get nice and cooked and soft in there. And these right here, these potatoes right here are going to take about 25 minutes. These are pretty much already done. You could eat that. That's ready to go. So like 20-25 minutes. So 25, 40, 40 plus 20. So you can do the math on that. So you're pulling everything out of the oven at one time, and then your plate up. It's really impressive, kind of impresses the ladies. This is for my nerd guys out there who are still single. This is impressive to the ladies. You know, this could help your dating game. And so here's what you get. I started with 4 and I wound up with 3, and it's because you want to see how these things are overflowing. You want to do that just because of the volume that you're working with, and you're expanding the volume because you're adding things like the milk and the cheese and sour cream or whatever you're adding. So you're going to want it with probably a husk. Now that, I don't know, you probably fill it and make a potato skin with it, fill it with cheese and bacon, bake it, and it'll be pretty damn good. Actually, now I think about it with these, since bacon is still Whole30 approved, I'm probably going to cook some bacon to go on top of that. That'll be nice. But it's a nice presentation. These are going to brown up nicely on the top. These are your twice baked potatoes all mixed up together, salt, pepper, garlic, things like that. These are going to go in the oven. Basically, as I'm doing all of this, the meatloaf and the Brussels sprouts, this is all going to go in the oven at about the same temperature, about the same time, probably about 400 degrees. These are going to take about 25 minutes. The Brussels sprouts take about 40 minutes. The meatloaf takes 40 minutes covered and then 20 minutes uncovered with the heat bumped up to about 425. So if you time it right, you can do this and that, and then have that pull the Brussels sprouts and the potatoes out, and they'll stay hot up top on top of the oven as you finish up the meatloaf, and everything should come out nicely together. So yeah, I'm pretty much ready to go. I just got to get the oven, and at the proper time, I'm going to throw everything in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys learned something here. I hope you don't ridicule me for how messy my countertop is. I don't have a whole lot of space in here. If there's anything you'd like me to cook, anything you want to know how to cook, that you, for yourself or for friends or maybe a special lady or a guy, let me know. I'll see what I can do to put it together. Who knows, maybe this cooking thing, I may start a Patreon for the cooking thing if people want to donate to that, so I can buy things to cook that are a little out of the ordinary. But I'm Neridcane. You can hit me here. You can hit me on Twitter. My Xbox One handle is the same thing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. I hope you had fun. Hope you go out and experiment and cook some good food for the people you like. And me and Neridcane Jr. are say have a good day. Bye-bye. He's speechless because of the food.